Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Monday. And as a courtesy note to all of our listeners, change your bank passwords. Because before we hopped on this call, I had to cancel my debit card, which was a super way to start the week. A wonderful omen. But it is time to sift through the pile again.
Oh, yes.
Welcome to Steaming Pile with Lauren and Tucker. I am Lauren.
And Tucker, that's me. I'm Tucker.
Yes, yeah. Okay, good. I guess the cue cards didn't get to you.
No. I'm flying blind for this one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, the USPS has funding cuts, so I should have done, like, priority, but that's...
Oh, yeah.
What can I say?
It feels bad. Like, just not even speaking of the political damage, just like, it's the USPS. It's like,
Yeah.
we all know and love them.
Yeah.
It's like a friend. Can't say. Yeah, it's
It's like the friends from grade school. You never wished them any ill, so to hear that they're doing poorly, you're like, but they're my friend from 4th grade.
Yeah, it's like you've read a bad status on Facebook. Aw, that's a shame. Your dog died, or oh no, you have cancer. I don't know. I guess it's more akin to cancer than your dog dying, but like that's a shame.
Yeah.
But then you keep scrolling.
And like, the weird thing is people who do make it political, they're like, we don't need a post office. It is actually constitutionally mandated.
Yeah.
And like, not even amendment. I'm pretty sure it's an Article 1 thing.
What do you mean we don't need a post office? What are these people saying? What are they going to do? Pay FedEx rates? Hell no.
They think that FedEx and like UPS are sufficient.
That's adorable. No. I mean, it's amazing for all of the logistical problems that FedEx and UPS has solved and how they tout that. It is a far larger logistical problem that the USPS has to solve.
Yes.
It's insane the amount of just volume they move.
Yeah. Well, and people even point out that like FedEx and UPS don't do rural. So like for people like my family, like Amazon might, but I would be surprised. So oftentimes FedEx will have to deliver it to a post office for the USPS to carry out the rest of the way.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I never really thought about that because I always just assumed that FedEx and USPS went anywhere. It just cost more if it was further away from like distribution points. That's interesting.
And they might. This is me speaking confidently, so I sound correct.
Yes.
So those are asterisked heavily. Need to verify, but yeah.
No, it's interesting. That's interesting. But it's a shame that, first off, it's a shame that FedEx and UPS are so expensive. Good Lord. But that just shows how tricky it is to like actually maintain a global network of package movers.
Yeah.
I don't know. In larger cities, well, increasingly smaller cities, I guess, you see Amazon building up their own fleet, which is just downright logical. I mean, of course they're going to do that.
Yeah.
But is that going to cripple the postal service or whatever they were using before? I know they were spreading it out across a lot of different carrier services.
It's hard to say. I always felt it was insidious when they started using the whole like drone shipping things. Because that just made me uncomfortable. I don't like the thought of things getting to me the same day that aren't food.
Sure.
Because I understand what kind of work would have to go in to get it to me that soon. And sometimes even when I'm like on Amazon, I'll be like, I need an option for like literally you don't have to get it to me in 2 days. It can be a week if it means you're allowed to use the bathroom. Like it's
fine. That is straight because you don't really think when you click the Prime option, there's a lot behind that. And again, Amazon, it's a big logistical problem, but they solve the logistical problem. This isn't speaking of even like USPS or FedEx. Who knows how they solve it? Probably with a lot of robots, and Amazon's getting there. But like, there's a lot of workers at Amazon plants. And like you said, as you alluded to, at least they're overworked because I need my. I don't even know what do people buy on Amazon. What do people buy on Amazon?
Anything that's part of it. I do know that at the beginning of quarantine, sex toys and vibrators were really big. That people were just buying those like crazy at the start of quarantine.
Makes sense.
It's yeah, so it's like, okay, great. You're not hooking up with people, but also Amazon workers shouldn't have to risk their lives so you can get a dildo. It's you know?
What a noble profession. Why didn't someone make a
Isn't it
Postmates for
just?
this?
Ooh.
Missed business opportunity. We gotta be faster
Yeah.
with these.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't know, but just it's amazing to me that well, I mean, we know very well of what Amazon does, right? It's very clear to people, but it's not like people are going to cancel Amazon.
They were very sneaky at how they made themselves indispensable.
Yeah.
They spent like, 2008 to 2015 becoming the go-to to the point where I shopped at a Barnes and Nobles and it felt like I was supporting small business.
Oh, that's a shame. But also, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. That's
Yeah.
yeah. I wish I don't know. Because it's so we can't lose Amazon at this point.
No.
There's no chance. Maybe sometime in the future it's going to be broken up by antitrust laws, but it'll still exist. The capacity of Amazon will still exist. And I wonder I mean that's just a thing that people have to accept within themselves. They're willing to it's like I don't know. There are a lot of historical things that you can like use as a precedent, but they're only half equivalent. I don't know. It's a real interesting problem that no one cares about because I want my dildos in 2 days. That's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, like I try to shop secondhand when I can, both because it's usually faster because it's in town and because it's supporting at least local chains. They might have multiple stores in the area, but it's not Amazon.
Yeah.
And usually it's cheaper, depending on where you go. If it gets classified as an antique, you kind of have to look around because otherwise it's going to cost more just because it's old.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I wonder, and of course, this is 100% affected by the pandemic, how people have flocked to Amazon because, things get brought to you. You don't have to go risk your life getting a book or a dildo. So, like, I wonder if we'll ever go back to the brick and mortar style. And this is of utmost concern. Not directly of utmost concern to me because I work for a company that lives and dies on that principle.
True.
So,
yeah.
and honestly, I mean, who cares about the corporate side of it? But just in general, like walking into a store is it just feels nice.
It does.
And as much as I love shopping on Amazon and the immediacy and the efficiency of it, and how I can usually find a better deal on Amazon, I like it. I like browsing, and it sucks to browse on Amazon.
Yes. I don't like browsing on Amazon. Things don't appeal to me as much on Amazon as they would if I can physically touch it with my hands.
Yes.
And it feels more like an event. Like I actually did something, even if it was spend money on stuff I'm not going to get to for 3 more months.
Yeah.
I did something.
Yeah. You expended effort, and there was reward at the end instead of just only reward, I guess. But that's I don't know. That's an interesting psychological question that I am not even close to being qualified to address.
Yeah. I think as far as like the brick and mortar things go, it will depend on if some businesses go to more of a warehouse style where it's exclusively shipping, which is going to hurt like landlords and banks who own those buildings, which would be interesting. But like restaurants have to have a physical presence because you can't warehouse all the food.
Not true. If you remove the dining room part, as we've seen, a lot of restaurants, not all of them, a lot of them just went belly up. But some restaurants you can see if they just lobbed off their dining room portion, and now they're just kitchens for DoorDash, Postmates, etc., friends, or maybe they deliver themselves.
Yeah.
which is horribly inefficient unless you're like a pizza chain. But what it's interesting
Yes.
is maybe it will stay like that. I don't know. There are some places that you kind of miss, like just going to a place and the ambiance of it, which is really what you're paying for.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
not cooking and the ambiance, being somewhere
Yes.
else.
I do have hope in some capacity, just because like our generation and the generation before us in particular seem to be like driven to very small joys, which is why I think they were kind of responsible for the revival of the vinyl industry.
Mm-hmm.
And like greeting cards kind of went through a glow up and they don't suck anymore, just because we enjoy actually physically sending them now.
Yeah.
And I think the future generations will probably have a little more of an inclination towards supporting stuff like that.
That could
Just because like it's almost like a cycle of consumerism, because like in the 60s it was cool to be countercultural and to like reject consumerism, and then in the 80s it was like super consumerism, and in the 2000s there was another kind of bout of consumerism, but we're now in the like, no, consumerism bad.
Yeah, no, that's. I'm just trying to think of like I guess the stereotypes of the younger generation, because that's all I really know about them. And I'm just thinking, like, would they be into those kinds of things? Or is it too late? Did they grow up on Amazon and now, until it becomes the hipster thing to do, is it just stuck like that? I don't think they have enough money to make a difference at this point.
Right, that is the thing, is it's a generation that cares so deeply but does not have the leverage to do anything.
Yeah.
The interesting thing with Amazon will be when Jeff Bezos dies and how the company functions after that.
I'm not convinced that Jeff Bezos can die.
He, like Zuckerberg, shall never die.
Oh yeah, they'll just migrate to the cloud.
Yeah.
That's
It'll
just
be the, what was the movie? Transcendence? It'll be
Yeah.
the movie.
Oh yeah. No, it's Lord Bezos will just exist forever. And honestly, I was actually just having this conversation with someone else the other day. Lord Bezos just sounds right. Just
It
it's
does.
just a title.
I hate that it does, but it does work.
Yeah.
Because, like, there are dynasty-ish families in America.
Sure.
Like, they all kind of bought their way into, prominence, whether that be the Biltmores or the Vanderbilts or the Kennedys. Kennedys are kind of dynasty-ish families.
Oh yeah.
But then, like, yeah, Bezos, new on the scene.
Mm-hmm. I don't really even know a lot about him, to be perfectly honest, other than he's bald.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. There was definitely a story written by an ex-wife, and I nearly said that was Bezos' ex-wife, but it's from Musk's ex-wife.
What do we really know about Jeff Bezos?
He used to have hair. Oh my gosh, what commercial did he used to do? Taco Bell? I think he did a Taco Bell commercial like back in the 90s.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'll have to dig that up. That's
It was
eye-opening.
some commercial. Yeah, he had hair. I remember that much.
Wow.
I know a little bit about the history of Amazon, that it started out as like diapers.com.
Really?
Or no, it started out.
I thought it
It
started
has
as
something
books.
to do with diapers.com.
Interesting.
There were books, but basically their business model from like the late 90s into the early 2000s was to bleed money in order to buy out competition. It's
Makes
just
sense.
to sell things for as cheap as possible and then buy out competition. So they may have bought out diapers.com because then they started offering like things for new moms.
Yeah. I mean, and it blew my mind when I found out, oh, we just started turning a profit. And I'm like, how? It was already integrated in people's lives. How are you not turning a profit this whole time? And you know what really blows my mind? Rideshare companies are just hemorrhaging money. Uber, Lyft, Friends, they just like they don't turn profits. They are deep in the red.
That's how?
Great question. They live on venture capitalism.
Yeah, well, because like it's you pay like a webmaster to make sure it doesn't crash.
Yeah.
However many webmasters you need.
Uh-huh.
And unless someone in the company is making ridiculous amounts of money, off the fact that these people are doing freelance rideshare, that's so weird.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, they're trying to get into a lot of spaces. They're trying to grow horizontally, and I guess in order to stay competitive, because there isn't a whole lot of competition, but the competition is fierce. Like it's Uber, it's Lyft, and it's everyone else, right? So, and everyone else isn't even close.
Right.
I'm even struggling to think of names of other ones, but like the development time, the apps are done, the service is done. What are they doing? Adding features. That's like, I can't imagine that costing into the billions. Like,
Yeah. Well, and even whatever features they could add, a lot of it just comes down to personal preference, doesn't it?
how do you mean?
Well, like if I am in a city where both Uber and Lyft are available, I tend to choose Lyft.
Oh yeah.
So that's
Yeah. No, you're
it's
right.
the closest thing to brand loyalty that I think we have in this generation.
Yeah. Yeah. That is interesting. Brand loyalty doesn't even like do anything anymore, I would say.
I think it depends. A lot of it just comes down to coasting on what your parents bought.
Yeah.
And some of it comes down to like buying it because you think it's worth spending that much. Because like toilet paper is the example I always go with, just because like there are a handful of brands of that, and in the end, comfort I think matters most in that department.
Oh sure, yeah.
But like that's the thing that like I will buy a brand for because I believe in that quality.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to things like spaghetti sauce or jelly, like I don't care. I'll take whatever brand is cheapest, even if that's the Kroger brand, because it doesn't matter that much. I think phone and computer brands are probably the only thing that people have a loyalty to.
Oh yeah, that didn't even occur to me.
Like Apple people are very loyal to Apple.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's a brand loyalty. That's a special case. That's a brand loyalty I don't think you see with any other computer company. I've never seen anyone brand loyal to HP. It just doesn't happen.
I mean, we've typically bought HPs just because they've had decent performance and have been relatively inexpensive. Plus, they still have disk drives, and I really like disk drives because I have DVDs.
Discs.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. That won't last for much longer, I imagine.
Which makes me sad.
Well, you just have to carry an external player along with all your dongles. Yeah, I know.
Ew.
Yeah, it's...
I hate it. At that point, I'll just buy a DVD player.
Yeah. Pretty much.
It's, yeah.
And even then, those will be hard to find, too.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
so bummed. I like physical copies. I don't like the rental economy.
Sure. Yeah, and it's like subscription services too. It's the concept that you don't own any of your media. There was a while ago, I want to say like 2016, just one day, all of Kanye West's music disappeared off of every streaming service.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and people were like, "How is this possible? It's Kanye West." But it solidified, and it at least made the news to prove the point that you don't own your music. You just buy the right to listen to it sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And it's it's just another middleman.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. So generally, if I'll listen through an album and I like it, I'll try to find a physical copy. Like I recently listened to The Bends by Radiohead.
Okay.
And I bought a physical copy of that. Because like, not that I'm afraid that one day I'll go onto like my streaming service and it'll all be gone, but it goes back to like not having an aux cord in my car.
Oh yeah, and I hate the fact that like my phone doesn't have a headphone jack. It's because
Does it not?
It doesn't. It has one hole in the bottom, and that's charging and also audio, but no headphone jack.
It seems so inefficient.
Right, that's what I said. And
What if you you can't charge and listen to things discreetly.
Wow, interesting concept. I guess they don't care because once Apple did it, now everyone else is going to do it.
Oh, and I guess all the headphones are going wireless too.
Oh yeah, but a lot of Bluetooth headphones just suck. They suck.
I don't trust it. I couldn't get it to link to my laptop, so I'm like, that tears it. The technology doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just not there. Bluetooth is great until you want like audio quality or any quality or ease of use. Then it just kind of falls apart. It just falls apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. My phone came with a dongle. I kept it in the car because that's really the only place I used it. It just, I don't know. I think there was an outcry enough for the headphone jack that at least some phone manufacturers are adding it back to some of their models.
Which is good.
Yes. Meanwhile, there are rumors that Apple's going to get rid of the charging port as well.
We just want a solid cube.
If it was up to Johnny Ive, it would be a glass brick. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. And what'll be very interesting to see with that is, will they, for the iPhone 12, if they do it in September, they'll probably include a charging mat, right? Because pretty much everything they have is wireless charging at this point. They got on board. They finally said, okay, we'll do it. So that's the iPhone 12. Will the iPhone 13 come with a charging mat? Probably not. You should have bought the 12 and gotten the charging mat for free, or now you have to buy the charging mat.
Oh.
Classic Apple.
I see. That's such a good business model, but I hate it.
Oh, yeah.
That makes me mad.
Yep. Classic
Which
Apple.
always leaves me conflicted because I do like the idea of working and earning things, and I love obscene amounts of cash.
Oh, yeah.
But the greed is just so demoralizing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've not read entire books on finance, but when I was reading The Big Short, the whole time I'm reading it, I'm like, all of this money is fake. We pretend that it's real.
Yeah.
We just throw it around. It doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. It's a little spooky.
It is. It is. And like, I get it. We probably had to come off the gold standard in 73, but that was, I think, a bad move.
Yeah. And I think it's worse because now that we don't have gold backing it up, no one really understands what is backing it up.
Yeah, because there's not anything.
Well, yeah, it's
like,
a dream.
Equity, I guess. It's assets. Like,
I don't understand it at all. It's like Bitcoin. I don't get how Bitcoin has value.
Yeah, because everyone agrees that it does.
But that's dumb. I mean, you can agree anything has value, but does it? I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah, see, it blows my mind because it makes sense, and also it doesn't. I can't.
Yeah.
There
are cities in the U.S., I forget where it is, but they're in like smaller communities where they're reinstituting like local currency, which can only be used in local establishments where the community, the city, municipality, whatever, recognizes its value. And so it's meant to help, keep the lights on for local businesses, so you can't necessarily do it to pay your mortgage. But this way it frees up real money to pay for those things, but you can still support the community.
Where is this?
I forget where.
Like, country-wise. It's in
the U.S.
That's not legal.
Sure it is.
It's written right in the I don't know a lot about, like, the Constitution. I know this is written in the you can't print your own money. That's the federal government's job.
Yeah, U.S. town creates local currency to boost coronavirus relief. This was Tenino, Washington. Residents are eligible for up to $300 in the wooden banknotes each month to spend at local businesses.
Is this on, like, an Indian reserve? Or is this an actual, under federal jurisdiction, honest-to-God town?
As far as I know, it's federal jurisdiction stuff. The answer was a revival of local currency that had bolstered the town's economy in 1931 in the wake of the Great Depression. Tenino, a town of less than 2,000 people, located about 60 miles southwest of Seattle, started printing the local banknotes in April, 5 weeks into Washington state's lockdown.
Huh.
Yeah. You can spend it on everything but tobacco, alcohol, cannabis, and lottery tickets.
Interesting.
Now, the city government has to back it,
Mm-hmm.
so they exchange it for US dollars at a 1-to-1 rate.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's got to be the loophole, maybe. If it's, I mean, they're not really minting their own currency. They're just saying that it's like they're like gift cards worth $1.
Kind of, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, fine. If it works for them, I guess.
Yeah. No, I'm like, fine, bring it all back. There is no standard of currency anymore. Because at this point, I'm like, if money doesn't exist, debt doesn't exist. Because there's nothing backing any of it.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, the gold standard was a bad decision. The worst decision of Nixon's presidency? Only time will tell.
There's a list.
Yeah, just a handful. Of
Maybe top 10. I mean, man, oh man. What's next? People are making their own currency. What's next on the because it's coming back. I'm not sure if we're in a second wave right now. I don't know what that shape would be, but like, what would be next? What is the next logical step for society to do?
My vote is for communes, because we've already seen like the Chaz in Seattle or Minneapolis, one of the two,
yeah,
where people just blocked off part of the municipality and it was a free for all.
Mm-hmm.
It was anarchy. That's what I anticipate will happen next, especially as like evictions start coming in, jobs don't start coming back. I anticipate like a great movement to middle of nowhere areas.
Oh, sure. Oh, that's already happening.
Where people just kind of start over off the face of the map,
mm-hmm.
and they just become ghost towns.
Yeah. Oh, you're already starting to see, especially with white people, they're fleeing urban areas in droves.
Yes.
And they're fleeing to the suburbs, which I mean is not great, because suburbs, I mean, they're nice to live in, but they're also horrible for the environment. So, yeah, I wonder. I mean, the people who are already in the suburbs don't want that. They'll probably flee out further and do what you're saying.
Yeah, because a lot of the appeal of suburbs was it was supposed to be like marginally more affordable.
Yes.
And so that's going to jack up the price again. It's going to be gentrification just to another area.
Yeah.
It's going to be white people gentrifying themselves.
Oh dear. We played ourselves.
We'll have discussions about it because it will have affected white people.
No, I mean, there you go. That's how you get stuff done. You make white people deal with it. It'll be their problem, and then they'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Sad, but also effective.
Yes.
Ah, man, I just want it to be over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I will say that I have started to like go back up, because like at the beginning of quarantine I was like, yeah, this is my life is normal. This will be fine. Then we hit like rock bottom in July, where I was like actually opening emails from LinkedIn.
Oh my God.
Who was hiring? But like now I'm actually playing guitar again.
Hey.
I'm actually bothering, to cook again. So we're starting to just trend back upwards.
Damn, you're living a life. That's good.
Yeah, certainly a life.
Oh, it's good to hear. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
Guitar wise, how does it sound? Are you
not too
there?
bad? I because I've listened through pretty much the entire Beatles discography, I bought a chord book for their music specifically. And what's convenient is a lot of their earlier stuff is modeled on like early rock, so it's pretty easy, like 4 chords and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Working on Yellow Submarine right now, which was fun because I learned how to tune my guitar down a semitone. I learned what a semitone was to begin with.
There you go.
And yeah, it changes a lot more frequently than I realized, but it's not too bad. It's at least recognizable.
Sure, that's good.
Yeah.
No, it's really good to have, I guess, because now you have the time for additional hobbies.
In theory, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in theory, it's easy to let the day get away from you. You're done working, and you blink and it's 8. It's like, damn it.
I know. Yeah, and that's what's gonna suck is when it starts getting dark at 6.
Oh no.
That's gonna be the most demoralizing thing in the world.
Oh, that didn't even occur to me. Oh dear. Oh no.
I know. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll see it for COVID-21. I don't know. I like the cold, believe it or not, but I don't. Everyone thought, and by everyone I mean a small amount of people. I trapped myself with my own sentence structure. Thought that the summer would stave off the virus as it does to other sicknesses, like flus generally peak in late winter, early spring, and then they die off because it gets warmer.
Yeah.
And that did not happen.
It did not.
But it'll be interesting to see how the winter affects it. If it does at all, I'm thinking it will not.
I think what we're really just going to see is people like, well, they didn't die from COVID. They died from the flu. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, of course. No, what's been disheartening is seeing like no general change in work cultures of like actually being supportive of like, oh, you feel sick, don't come into work.
Yeah.
Because I think it was a lot of companies just held their breath until they could open again and then just didn't change anything except for the masks that their employees wear. So.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just a thing of capitalism, I guess. I don't know.
Yes.
Natural consequence.
We do live in a society.
And what a society it is.
I have to admit, I do like that meme of we live in a society. There are a handful of memes that are technically dead that I still hold on to that do make me laugh.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, like Uganda Knuckles I still think is really fun.
He's still showing you Dayway?
Yes.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I'll see like clips from it and I'm like, yeah, that was a good time.
Those were the days.
Yeah. Things are so much simpler.
Oh. It's just a year ago, right? Uganda Knuckles was a 19 meme, right?
Oh gosh, I hope not. I thought it was 2018. If it's 2019, gosh.
I don't want to look it up. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just I want, and it's very interesting seeing how memes are born, right? Like the weirdest things turn into memes.
Yes.
And at the weirdest times.
Yeah, sometimes it makes a lot of sense, like when Avatar dropped on Netflix, and so a whole new generation of people were watching it, and so they just had to share like this new collective knowledge. But other things, I don't know how it starts. Like some of the memes from like 90 Day Fiancé, I don't know what the origin of those memes is. I don't know if it's because a certain channel discusses it, or if like it just happens to drop. I don't know.
Well, I assume you're specifically referencing the Mayo guy.
Well, yeah, he's the most recent one anyway.
Okay, yeah, I think I do wonder where that came from. I don't know, and it's hard to trace the origin of memes because it's just so viral. But I remember H3H3 did a video on it. I don't remember. For some reason I don't know for sure, but I seem to remember seeing something about it before that. So I don't know if the meme originated with them, or if they just brought it to the forefront, or if they were just like reporting on it. Right? I don't know.
Yeah. And I think it depends on community to community, because I'm sure there are entire memes that have come and gone, and I've just never seen them because I don't move in those internet circles.
Sure.
And things like World War III, I'm really fascinated as to where memes about that start. If that's like a Reddit thing, if it's a Twitter thing.
Yeah. I mean, oh my,
Because
yeah.
a lot of memes anymore are just screenshots of Twitter.
Yeah. I've noticed that. And the
Yeah.
format for memes, the white text, or the white square with the white with black text, and then the reaction picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And what gets fascinating is when memes get very meta about other memes, and so the memes themselves become like spoofs on the format.
mhm.
I love when stuff like that happens.
Oh, I love meta memes. They're the
Yeah.
best. I love meta memes.
Yeah. The Dojinshim ones, I really like those.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, and like I used to be on Twitter. I have been trying to quit it, and it was like a private goal of 2020 to like get off the site and be done with it. So I deactivated it like a week and a half ago at this point,
Mm.
and it feels really good.
Oh yeah, that's because Twitter is a cesspool.
It is.
Twitter has
And
just devolved.
yeah. And I think it just because it became like the dustpan for the rest of the internet. That when one site would go bad, they're like, I guess we go to Twitter.
Yeah.
And so I finally left, and it occurred to me how much brain space was just passively occupied by that. Where like, oh, I'm bored. And I would open it, and I would just get lost. And I would open threads that I didn't care about.
Yeah.
Just to read what people were mad about.
No, it's not just you. That's the whole point.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't need to know everything about everyone all the time.
Exactly.
And I think I have until like September 6th to like save the account, because like it deactivates for like 2 weeks or something, but then after that it's gone. And I think I'm just gonna leave it. I've been on the site for like 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So it felt good to be done with it.
Yeah. No, it's that's one of the ones that's just worth just forgetting about, really.
Yeah.
I'm afraid it's become the new Facebook.
Oh, it totally is.
Yeah. Which it's time. I remember when Facebook used to be cool, and the thing that really drove me off of Facebook, and I tried to fight it for the longest time, but it was futile, was I stopped seeing things about my friends, and I started seeing more things that they shared from content mills. And
Yes.
I don't think words can convey how much I despise that.
Yeah.
And so I tried blocking these content mill accounts.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like Medusa. You cut one head off, and 2-3 more appear.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't care.
And it sucks when it throws up suggested for me, because it's like, if I liked it, I would like it.
Yeah. And that's the whole point of Facebook. At least it was the whole point of Facebook, was to I care about the my friends, but I don't care about what they and that's just all the feed is anymore. It's just so infuriating, because you have to scroll for miles upon miles to find something that is not shared and is original content.
Yeah. And I think you feel a sense of obligation where it's like, well, I would talk with this person in real life, so I should at least look at what they post. But there are a handful of people that I'm like, no, I'm just going to hide everything that you post, because I don't care.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's, you post it to get a reaction, and if I don't want to give it a reaction, I don't want to look at it anymore.
Yeah, it's wasted screen space.
Yeah. And like, I keep it because that's how my sister and I can communicate right now, because that's all she has, and they live out in the middle of nowhere, so there's not really texting.
Sure.
But yeah, it's one that has clung to the barest of relevancies, but Twitter is moving in that direction, because that seems to be the one that people push more to go to use as like a platform. It's nope.
I wonder what's next after Twitter. I feel like it's gonna. I was going to say Snapchat, just based on the content they try to push, like the Snap Originals. Did you see the Snap Original? And this blew my, I still don't know how I feel about it. I don't think it's technically a Snap original, but it's content produced for Snapchat. It was like a Snapchat story through the eyes of a 1940s little Jewish girl in Poland. And it details it starts out, all happy-go-lucky, we're very happy in Poland, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe it was Czechoslovakia, I don't quite remember. Suddenly the laws started happening, and then they started, getting persecuted is the word? Prosecuted. And then they started getting rounded up, and the series ends in a boxcar. And it has amazing production value, but it's very cringy because it uses the Snapchat filters sometimes. It uses it's an interesting way to get younger generations to learn about history. I'm talking like I'm 50. I'm just 24. But it's like, is this the place? Is the Snapchat original the place for that kind of thing? And it is kind of well done, but it just feels wrong. It feels tacky.
Yeah, there were TikTok kids who got called out for doing Holocaust victims from beyond TikToks.
Oh no.
So it's one of those things where I get it. If the production quality is good, that at least is a little bit in its favor. But there's also in real life, after a point, she wouldn't have been allowed her phone.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because on the one hand, it's well, if it gets kids to read about it for real.
Yeah. It's very historically accurate. That's why I'm so confused. It's historically accurate. It's a historical fiction piece. It just feels wrong.
I think if it didn't have the filters, that would bump up its, respectability a ton.
Yeah.
But the fact that it uses the filters, I think it's a little weird.
It's a little strange, yeah. And they're just all these Snap originals. Sometimes I hate click one of them just to see. I like to hate click on the content, and this is exactly what he wants, I realize. Prince E.
Yes, yeah.
That colossal mountain of nothing. I hate every video that he produces because it's so, what's the word for it? Inspiration
Vapid.
Porn. And vapid is a good one, but it's inspiration porn. And And I don't, one of them I recently saw on Snapchat was he's been peddling the school one. I assume because it's back to school season. And I think he was playing, I forget exactly what the title was. It was don't go back to school. And I think it's playing off the coronavirus fears. Don't go back to school. And it's just Prince, bud, just stop.
Yeah.
And there's something off about him, and I know people have made videos about him, but I don't like that kind of inspiration porn. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to me that so many people do.
Yes. Yeah. Because it kind of falls in the same line of randomly mentioning a handful of successful people who didn't go to school, acting like not going to school was what made them successful.
Yes.
And it's no, sometimes they had, a ton of money. Sometimes they were in the right place at the right time. You can't build a formula for success that gets you to that level every single time.
Yeah. But it's what people want to hear.
I even didn't go to public school, but do some form of education.
Yeah.
You can do unschooling, that's fine. Homeschooling, that's fine. Public school, it's a way to get an education. But
yeah. But they all see I guess I so many people unfortunately see the Jake Paul model as viable.
Oh yeah.
And it's crazy. Well, first off, it's crazy that he gets away with the things he gets away with, but also like that he's able to market that lifestyle, which was really the goal all along, right? Like he's always that's where the real money is, to be able to you build a base and then you sell that base.
Yes.
But at the same time, he not only is he selling it to the people who want the base, but he's selling it to the people who want to be like him, and that's dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially when oftentimes he doesn't come across as having a personality. Like I've seen other people dissect his content, and a lot of like the appeal of his videos comes through in the editing, which makes it a lot more high energy than he can be sometimes.
Yes.
Because he tried to do this like, financial freedom thing, and he is a wooden plank in those.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you want to make this a thing people care about. I don't.
Yeah.
Like, and I think he pretends that being successful, at least from a monetary standpoint, means you're a good business person on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily so.
That's true.
And I've watched people go to his live events, and it's like, what skills do you have as a content creator that ensure your longevity?
Exactly.
What happens when your fan base grows up?
That's a good point. I wonder.
And that's a question that a lot of content creators need to address and figure out how to deal with, because that is what ensures longevity, is growing with your audience.
Because that's a dwindling market. I don't see. I can't. Well, it might be possible that it's true, but I can't imagine like people who are fresh onto YouTube get into that kind of stuff. He kind of captured the market that was already there. I actually don't entirely know the genesis of that whole thing. But it's really interesting.
There are a couple of like phases of YouTube style content. And you can see kind of the evolution of certain content creators and how that's worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have just straight up abandoned the platform, depending on like what their success turned into. I think a lot of it depends on how established the content creator is at the time. Because like Rhett and Link were already in their 30s when they were doing it, and they've been doing it for 10 plus years.
Sure.
I think they've largely retained their audience, and they've grown their business, and it's been pretty successful. But I'm trying to think of like people I have consistently watched from like my early days of watching YouTube. And the funny thing is, Cinnamon Toast Ken is one of them. Like, we were watching him way back 2014-ish, when he was still making gaming content and trying not to curse in his gaming content. Mm-hmm. And so we've evolved through like his highs and lows, and his content's still great. And he's, a dad in his 30s now.
Yeah.
But for me, he's adapted because he knows that he's had to.
Yeah. And it's very interesting to see just people adapt with, like grow with their fan base or grow themselves. The big example of this that comes to mind is the group of content creators. iDubbbz, Filthy Frank, Anything for Views, Max Mofo, How to Basic hasn't changed, but he was there. Like that group, they've all gone off and done different stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very nice to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And it also blows my mind how like recently that was. It feels like it was forever ago.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. And, you have some people who kind of stick to their formula, or they evolve in a weird direction. I think Lily Singh's kind of the go-to for that, of how she hasn't really adapted, but she's still been met with success. And, like, I am happy for her. She's definitely in a position I would want to be, of being a late-night host. That's still, like, a thing I would want, even though that format is dead.
Yes, as well it should be.
Yeah. And it's cool. I think she just didn't evolve with her audience or with her content even. Yeah.
No, she bombed. She was called out on it. I don't know if is she getting a second season?
I don't know. Her show is, I think it got renewed,
Oh.
but it's in a tricky position because they film like all of it in 3 months.
Oh.
Or it's not even 3 months, but it's definitely like a three. They would get in a phase where they were filming like 3 episodes a day. That's what it is. So it's a breakneck pace to film something that cannot work. And it's one of those things where it almost feels like the glass cliff, I think is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Where like a woman is put into a position to be like the first woman to do something, and then it inevitably crashes and fails, and so it's like, this is why we don't have women do these things.
Yeah.
But
I hesitate to say that that's what happened here, because
yeah, this one feels more coincidental because we couldn't have predicted the virus.
well, no, I mean, Lily Singh's YouTube content, I feel like, just didn't translate to the mass market of late night television.
Yeah. One thing people pointed out that I didn't entirely notice was the fact that she looks into the camera because she's still trained to do that, where late night hosts only occasionally look at the camera.
Right. They have an audience
because they have an audience. Yeah. Yeah. And I think Swell Entertainment did a video about being on the show and just kind of how the audience was coached for it, which, I mean, I guess to some extent all late nights kind of rehearsed. I don't know to what extent.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing I'm fascinated by.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, I don't see it going past a second season. I think they could have found someone better, even from the YouTube sphere. They definitely could have. I mean, I wouldn't mind to see Swell Entertainment. What's her name, Amanda? I wouldn't mind to see her on doing a talk
great.
show. Oh yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. Yeah, it was an interesting choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I can see where they wanted to make late night more relevant, and it kind of just had the opposite effect.
Yes.
And Eddie Burback has a really good video on how late night adapted to the virus, and how Seth Meyers tended to do a really good job with like his monologues and bits, and then how Conan adapted early. And I think because his show was his show, it wasn't like a late night show. He had a little more freedom to do what he wanted with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now what he's doing is he's doing his show, his stand-up thing, the hosting late night, in an empty theater except for Andy, like in the back of the theater.
That's beautiful.
And it's so good.
That's one of the better concepts, I would say. That's pretty good.
Yes. I think it's why Eric Andre's concept works so well. Is it goes off of what you know about the formula.
Yeah.
And it makes me curious as to how long a given formula has before it either has to be lampooned or has to evolve.
Yes. Yeah. I don't want to get like nostalgic for older talk show hosts because I'm not 50, I'm 24. It just the hosts that they at least seemed like real people.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I thinking of? I'm thinking the Scottish guy.
Oh,
Craig Ferguson. Craig.
Yes.
I kept thinking of Colin Farrell, and I'm like, no, that's not right. It'd be interesting, but that's not right.
Yeah.
He was my favorite for a long time. He is funny. He is a funny guy. And because he just talked to the people.
Yeah.
That's really what a talk show should be. I mean, sure, the people are there to peddle their project, but that's only part of it. It's only part of it. And when I watch others like Fallon and Kimmel is who's the other one?
Corden.
Big guy, the cat, Baker's husband. James Corden.
Yeah.
It's just a little harder to watch. I don't know.
It feels a little more polished and more. It feels more peddly on those shows.
Yeah.
I think, which may be part of the branding, because like Jimmy Fallon is host of the Tonight Show. It happens to be the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, but it is the Tonight Show, and so it may be a little more tightly controlled what he can and can't do.
Yes.
But yeah, I all the time go through Conan's backlog
Mm-hmm.
and rewatch interviews because they do feel very conversational. And he doesn't seem afraid to make himself seem awkward to make the rest of the interview better. And I don't know, it's allowed to be a little more nuanced. Because, like, I've been going back through, like, all of his interviews with, like, Ringo Starr. Some of those are hilarious.
Mm.
Just because the rapport seems so natural.
There was this one talk show pilot. I didn't think it got past the pilot, and the concept. I think they should still do it. It was one of the best concepts I'd ever seen. It was a traditional talk show, except the host didn't know who the guests were, and so when they were introduced, that's when they found out.
That's so great.
Right?
I love that.
So it completely eliminates all of the canned funny story setups and all of the like, you know, you still get to peddle your project. It's more of a real conversation, and it's completely, there's no way it can't be genuine.
Right.
So I wish they did more with it. I don't even remember who hosted it. I remember the guy who looked like Zach Galifianakis. I don't think it was Zach Galifianakis, but it seemed like an amazing concept, and I wish they did more with it.
Yeah.
In a way.
They want the authenticity. I think that's what YouTube has done, is even if it's manufactured, that authenticity is what people want.
Yes, absolutely.
And they want it to feel off the cuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that'd be a good way.
And it's interesting, because people know it, but I don't think but people still don't care. If they cared, it would change.
Yes.
So
I think there are some things that are changing based on audience feedback. Like, I think the Oscars, every single year, it seems like there's a conversation on how they're going to do it differently to bump up audience engagement.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this year is going to be a wash in terms of determining, like, what to do to make things different, because let's be real, there's only so much they can do with the format.
Yeah.
But everything has to change this year, and I think people see it as temporary. That by next year we'll just do it the way we did before.
Hope not.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, no. And when I like travel back home, watching television, just regular old television, it's just a brutal experience, because I've been spoiled by having commercialist content, and
yes.
just it blows my mind that people pay money to watch commercials.
Yeah. I tell you what, I saw a commercial for a CBS sitcom, and it was such a weird out-of-body experience, because I was like, shows are still made with the studio audience laugh track included.
Yeah.
This still exists. And it was just such a baffling thing to know that, like, no, that's the content a big enough demographic watches,
Mm-hmm.
keeps the lights on, and keeps production going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's real weird.
Yeah. Because it's a weird problem where, like, you can have an extremely dedicated fan base, but if it's not a big enough demographic, it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you broaden that appeal and risk losing the niche? What do you do?
Well, I mean, you can't. You can't. Whatever the advertisers want is really the answer to that question.
Yeah. And it's kind of a shame that, like, advertising dictates enough of that.
Yes. You don't want the family foundation for the foundation of families to get upset with what you're airing or how you're airing it.
Yeah. Which, things like that, I don't know where the line is between, like, actually taking an effort to promote more family-friendly content versus just being a parent and talking with your kids and being like, hey, we don't think you're ready for content like this.
Yeah.
Here's why. If you're still dead set on watching it, we'll watch it together.
Mm-hmm.
But my parents we only had like a handful of shows we watched together at the same time as a family, so it wasn't really a thing that we had to deal with. And I was a straight-laced enough kid that, like, we didn't dare venture outside the norm,
Hmm.
and I made sure my brother and sister didn't. But then by the time, I'm in college, it's like our sister is at the same level of what we watch and consume. So it's, I don't know. I think foundations like that probably have good intentions. Obviously, they feel like they do, but it also feels like you could just have parents be responsible.
That is a novel concept. Be
Right.
be parents. Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, it's like all the parents freaking out about the song WAP, and it's like,
Okay, well that's yeah.
guys, if your children are casually hearing this, something else has gone amiss.
Yeah. Have you seen the music video for that?
I have not seen the music video. I have basically seen everyone else talk about it, but see the original source content.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like all the like components of music are there, and like it's like you want to like it's music that makes you want to twerk, but at the end of the day, it's yikes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there have been a handful of like beautiful things that have come out of it that have just made me laugh to death. Like the fact that Critical really likes the song. He thinks it's just fantastic. Ben Shapiro inadvertently admitting that his wife has never been wet. And this kid who does a really uncanny John Mulaney impression reciting the song.
Yeah, I know. I saw
And
that.
it's
It was so
flawless.
good. It was so good.
Oh my goodness. His name's like Lucas something, I think. But yeah,
Yeah.
just impeccable. And when he threw in the line about ducks at the end, and even he could see what that led to. Just
Magical.
pure art.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, if there's a market for it.
This, yeah. Gotta find your niche and cater to it.
And it's also catchy. It's so unfortunately catchy. Like
Basically any Cardi B song I have heard is ridiculously catchy. Like even going so far back as to like, I like it. I still kind of enjoy that song because it's very catchy.
Yeah.
And even just lines from her songs, I will remember. Because I haven't even heard all of Money.
Mm-hmm.
It still has a really good hook.
Sure, yeah. And that's really all that matters in the end. The hook and beat fetishism.
Yes.
People like the beat.
Yes. The beat is important. That's what gets it stuck.
I think so. And I also think that's what, because you see, if it has a good enough beat, if it has a danceable beat, then that's what gets played at parties and raves, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's a big market too.
Yeah, I think it's also what tends to make it to radio too.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not often that slow songs will make it to radio.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that Praying by Kesha had as long of a radio play as it did is honestly impressive. I also have to pull over every time that song comes on because I can't drive. I'm just like trying to cry and drive at the same time.
Can't do it.
You can't. And so yeah, because it's like when they take Summertime Sadness by Lana Del Rey and they have to make it like the dance remix in order for it to stay on the radio.
It defeats the purpose.
Her songs aren't meant to be happy.
Yeah, the unfortunate capitalism of art.
It all comes back to capitalism.
Yeah, always does. It always has been.
Wait, it's all capitalism? Always has been.
USSR, but not anymore. We think is Russia still communist? Like really communist?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on who you ask, because I think if you ask a like communist, they will probably say no. If you ask like a red-blooded American conservative, they will probably say yes. but I genuinely don't know enough about their politics and like the actual process of their government and how things function to know if it's communist or not. I don't know how their people receive work or go to school or get their medical care.
Yeah. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's literally on the other side of the world.
Yeah. Watched a really neat video about how all of their architecture was built.
Oh, yeah?
That's yeah, because they would build like these blocks, because the basic idea was like everything you would need would be within 2 miles of where you lived. And so they would build these buildings. I think the rule was the buildings could only be 5 stories high, because if it was 6 stories, they would need an elevator. So they were only 5 stories high, and all of the apartments basically looked the same, to the point where there are running jokes on like old sketch comedy shows in Russia about people going into the wrong house because everything looks exactly the same. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, like the knee-jerk reaction is like, well, of course they're communist because Vladimir Putin gets elected every term, but that doesn't make a difference. That I don't think necessarily makes it communist. It makes it a dictatorship.
Yeah.
But does it make it communist? I don't know.
Hey.
Smacks of communism. But who am I to say?
Well, oh. But it'd be interesting, because I know, like, it's no secret that, like, you know, China's communist. It's in the name of the ruling political party.
Yes.
And if I wind up dead, it's not suicide. But it just, like, it's interesting that China takes such a brazen stance on it. I mean, because clearly Russia's backpedaled enough that we don't know anymore. Just two average people here. But it's one of the C's in CCP, right? So,
yeah.
So I mean,
yeah. Which is interesting, given for USSR, it's CCCP, at least in terms of like American letters, because in Russian, C is S and P is R, at least in appearance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wacky Cyrillic alphabet.
I know, it's so cool. I love the Cyrillic alphabet. I can still phonetically sound out everything.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I did it for like a year and a half in high school.
They taught you Russian in high school? Or
when you're homeschooled, they do.
Oh.
Yeah, like we literally just bought Rosetta Stone.
There you go.
Yeah. I can still count to 8. I have to skip 9 and 10.
Who needs it?
Yeah. You just say 8 and 2. They know what it means.
There you go.
Yeah. And then any other Russian I've picked up has been from the Life of Boris YouTube channel. Not Russian I can necessarily repeat, but...
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Russian nonetheless.
It's exactly.
A Russian would understand.
Kind. Yeah, the important kind.
The important... the important, very, very colloquial kind.
Yeah. Oh goodness, we've talked a lot about like advertising and capitalism and stuff. We have a sponsor, don't we? Oh
yes, actually. Let me pull it up. Our sponsor today.
We should give them an ad. Yeah.
It's. I mean, they paid a lot. So here we go. Today's episode of Steamy Pile is sponsored by State Farm, not the insurance company. Rather, the Institute for the Criminally Insane down the street where I live. Yeah. The echoing screams call me to their pit of despair. They cry out for God, but God doesn't answer. Only their voices echoing off the walls of the buildings surrounding them. They don't let me sleep. Their echoes and the cries of the criminally insane want me to join them. They are begging me to join them. And now I can, with 25% off at checkout with promo code SENTHERE2DIE. State Farm. Who knows what they're growing in there?
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy we have like local sponsors. We've been talking a lot about like fighting big box stores. It's local.
Yeah, it sure is. It sure is nice to have that close by.
And organic.
Allegedly. Who knows what they're slapping on those labels nowadays?
It's Soylent Green as people.
Yep. Not too far away. Not too far away. 2040.
True. I have always held that eating people, I don't think will come from a place of desperation, but will come from a place of like people needing just something that much more exotic.
Oh yeah.
In the uber wealthy.
Mm-hmm. It'll be like everything else does. It'll be a trend that starts in the very upper class, and then as it becomes more commonplace and accepted and more affordable, it'll be like trickle down cannibalism. You'll start to see the masses eating each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's. I mean, it doesn't sound like the worst thing. You know, it solves the overpopulation problem. You're welcome.
Food shortage.
Yeah.
What can we say?
Yeah, it's a modest proposal.
It really is. Was Jeffrey Dahmer just an avant-garde visionary?
We both know the answer. It's a resounding yes. Resounding
Absolutely.
yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, honestly, that's probably within, I'll give it 170 years.
That's it. That's a long time.
Yes. It depends on when the collapse of America is.
Oh.
Because if that is imminent, it's not happening. If it's not imminent, 170 years. Because you got to come around to that. You got to get it outside of the Reddit circles. You got to get it outside of the Twitter sphere. You got to get it into like the common people. It has to be accepted at the uber wealthy level, which given, all the really dirty stuff that goes on with the uber wealthy, probably not far off. But it's getting from the billionaires to millionaires. It's going to take some time.
That's the critical leap, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know. The collapse of America, unlikely. I mean, keep in mind we're barely 200 years old.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a teenage state. Of course, it's going to go through some crap before it, matures into. I don't know. Look, European states are
a glorious civilization like the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean that's old, so old,
so
old. America's it's adolescent.
Yes,
make it through it. It's fine. It'll suck. But that. I mean, France. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, France figured out that you want to shortcut anything, you just revolt a bit.
Yeah.
And then boom, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You want a 4-day work week? Revolt. Done.
I will put that on my to-do list.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'll have to pencil it in between a couple meetings, but I think it can happen.
I think we can do a quick little revolt.
Yeah. We'll just get a guillotine off of Amazon.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, I feel like we've gotten to the bottom of the pile.
That did feel like the bottom of the pile. We found Amazon again, so that I think we've sifted to the bottom.
Oh God, the pile is circular. Oh God. Oh no.
And yeah, we still hit like an hour of content.
Oh, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Do we have? Yeah. I guess I take us out.
Do it.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to eavesdrop on our conversation this evening. This has been Steaming Pile with Lauren and Tucker. I am Lauren.
And I remember this time I'm Tucker.
Great. All right. We will see you next time. Have a wonderful evening.